Renato had a bad taste in his mouth. He was killing ravens, but it wasn't fun. It felt like a chore. Oh, Renato hated chores. As a
hey guys, how's it going? Brendan here, aka Mr. Weaverface.
He still didn't clean his room, he just moved house every few years. Who had the Stone anyway? Up ahead, he could hear screaming and croaking and cawing. But who was winning? Ooh. A portal that led right into the middle of the fleet. It was a glaring weakness in the defense.
So anyway, I'm playing Story's Path of Destinies. And it's a cool game, but there's a lot of stories to unlock. It's like a choose-your-own adventure. And I like the leveling up, but it just seems like the leveling up... I don't know, it's... like, it seems like it should have been more spread out, the leveling up. Like, because you have these 4 swords that you can upgrade, but pretty much you can upgrade them pretty early. All these different story paths to take. For Platinum, you have to unlock all of them. To beat the game, you don't have to unlock all the stories. But... cool game, I like it.
Forward, Renato noticed that some ravens were starting to ignore him. Just running away. Who were they running from? Some hero of the revolution? If some other so-called hero of the revolution had the stone and tried to take his victory and his medals, Renato was gonna be seriously pissed off. He was the hero, not some other bozo.
So all I'm doing is pretty much, when you do the different stories, the levels are like the same. So it would have been nicer if you did this different stories and the levels were a little different enemies, but all the enemies are like the same. So it's not a bad PlayStation Plus game, PlayStation Network. But it could be it could have been a lot better. So pretty much I'm just playing this to gain experience, to unlock some skills. Which you really don't need all the skills to beat the game. Like, it's just weird, like... like I have all these skills to unlock, but they really weren't necessary to begin with. So it just seems like a waste. I don't know.
Finally, Renato came to the Emperor's ship. Zenobia lay dead in front of it.
After you beat the game, you can skip some cutscenes,
Ravens lay dead, sprawled
some you can't.
Everywhere. Bloody feathers spattered across the deck and the dock. The council speaker came out. She was waving a sword around like a flag. "Look at me, Renato!" she croaked. The Stone on the sword was black as coal. "Now I will be Empress, and all shall tremble before me," she croaked. So the stone had her. It was in her brain, whining for blood. I'm afraid I can't allow that, said Renato, and moved to fight her. Toads are not usually good with swords. Something about the footwork. And the council speaker was not even a warrior. She was always tripping over things, which is quite an impressive achievement when you're a toad. Yet somehow, she was pressing Renato backwards as he desperately tried to keep her sword away from his throat. Look, why don't you keep the stone? He asked. You deserve it. Blood and souls for Iblis, she croaked. Blood and souls. She got under his guard with her sword. It was just the tip. But sometimes just the tip is enough. He could feel his soul being sucked into the stone. As he died, he felt embarrassed more than anything else.
Oh. I'm going to do 18 here.
The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Renato knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster.
Like
Maybe
I've seen this
he could find a way
dialogue
to
and
use it, to take its
this
power without
page like
surrendering to its
20
wickedness.
times now.
And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing.
It'd be nice
Of
just
course.
to skip it.
Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion, and he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage. Renato finally realized that Lapino was a traitor to the cause, and maybe Renato could use that somehow. Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen the winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait, where was the prison? The village was empty. Had everybody fled the ravens? People were frightened these days. Just 2 weeks past, Renato had sneaked through an empty town and listened to the ravens caw about the Emperor's new taste in ritual sacrifice. No. Hey, goodbye.
I haven't heard that one before.
Renato thought of the Iblis stone and shivered. He had no business messing with ancient, cruel artifacts. What he needed was his friends around him. Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
I like cheese.
Ravens were landing everywhere. The advance guard. He'd better get moving. If they got to Lapino first, they'd eat him for breakfast. Or a snack. Ravens weren't picky. If they got hungry, they sometimes forgot to interrogate their prisoners. Even top spies like Lapino. Well, unless he really was a traitor, obviously. Then they'd probably pin a medal on his chest. Lapino would betray him. But now Renato knew that. What would Lapino do if he knew that Lapino was going to betray him? Well, he'd concoct some crazy scheme, wouldn't he? That used Lapino's betrayal against him and it would blow up in his face. Maybe he was overthinking this. Well, that would be a first. About Ravens was they never dropped any loot, and no one ever wanted the feathers. Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized the cards. It was Lapino's favorite deck.
We capture Zenobia, we find out what she knows. And that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Capture the Emperor's greatest general,
Let's
who
find
happened
the
to also
core
be a
here.
deadly sorcerer, and oh, his only daughter. That would be worth it, and it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her, and he felt sure she had one for him. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power. To make the Sky Ripper, it's beautiful here, thought Renato. It was nice to be back with his old war buddy. All right. Lapino was a traitor. But still, he was good company. There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time. Renato felt wrong all over. He could feel an almost palpable sickness in the air. And if the land could have tumors, they would look like these monstrous crystals. The forest was quieter than it had been. There were insects, a few birds, if you didn't count the ravens. Bernardo smelled sick animals and dying ones. No help. I'm getting a bad feeling about this. Bernardo thought. Maybe Lapina was right. Maybe he should have kidnapped Zenobia instead of coming here.
Good experience there. Cool.
As he held the radiant icosahedron, Bernardo felt queasy, like dozens of tiny worms were... Tell you what, said Lapino. I'll take it to the observatory. You attack the Imperial outpost. The Imperial outpost was a vital communications node. Taking it could shatter the Empire's ability to coordinate. And it would be full of secret plans and maps and maybe even rebel prisoners. It was a good target for a hero like Renardo. But what if Lapino lost the core to the Empire? That could be a good thing, couldn't it? Was Renardo ready to take that risk? Maybe it was better if he brought the core to the scientists himself. Lapino was a...
Scientists. It's weird, you can skip the dialogue. You can skip the dialogue after you make a selection even if you haven't checked it before, but you can't skip dialogue that you've already heard. I don't understand that.
As Renardo watched Lapino vanish on the horizon, he could feel nausea building in him. He felt ill. Could his knees really be aching this much? But how could he have handed the core off to Lapino? That was a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, there are a few glitches in this game. Nice. Coffee after this. For my lunch. Nice. 28,870, huh?
Bernardo felt worse. All his joints were aching now. He'd been through beatings that felt better than this. So the core had a kind of poison that could harm you without even touching you. That's new. Well, it had power. The rebellion needed something with power. And how was this any worse than a sword wound? Well,
like it was totally missing the floor, and there'll be a missing floor up here too.
This was just squalid. Piecemeal
look,
death,
like nothing.
Old age.
I had to figure out like where to walk to get over here. Yay. Even the sides are messed up there. Excuse me. Oh well. That was a good fight. Got over 2,000 experience. And I love milk. What's the next choice?
The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists everywhere. Bernardo found the mad rabbit cowering under a desk. The ravens, they must have known we were coming. Bernardo wasn't sure he believed that. But that Peter was talking so fast. He always seemed to make sense. The secret rebel base. Yes. They had engineers there. But wait. Calaveras, the sage in the mountains. Maybe he would know what to do with the naked core.
All right. Each playthrough, each story takes like 30 to 45 minutes.
The only safe place for a landing. You would have to continue on foot, muscles aching. Calaveras was a scholar, not a doctor. Could he really save Renato from the poison radiating from the lost god's eye he was so recklessly carrying?
Good.
Oh, this was not a fun way to die. Even if he survived. No one would write ballads about the fox whose knees ached forever, would they? Not unless he paid for it. He hated paying for publicity.
Let's get a move on. Well, that wasn't hard at all.
It was chilling walking through the living mountains. There was always noise up ahead. Insects, birds, the croak and flutter of ravens arranging ambushes. But close by, there was only the breeze and the trickle of melting snow. As if every living thing was holding its breath for his poisonous burden to move on.
I wonder if I went towards the chest if some creatures would have popped out. Now see, it shouldn't have stopped the battle and gave me experience when all those other creatures came out. So that's kind of glitchy there. The glitches are pretty much repeatable. So it's not like it only happens during certain situations. I'm OCD. If I was making a game like that, I would not have let that pass. I don't even know how that got past testing. Play testing.
Renato wasn't sure he should have rescued the pedo. Could have had the Sky Ripper. Now all he had was the core, and it was killing him.
We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 yet. Man!
The core! Splendid! Croaked Calaveras. Where's the armature?
Right, I was kind of hoping you wouldn't need it.
No, I don't. It's just a professional interest. We've got much better prismatics than the old TE ever did.
So Calaveras was an arcane engineer. He fussed at the core all day. He wrapped it with silver chains, and in front of it, he placed a huge round ruby so that it looked like a monstrous floating eye. Ah, so, what is it?
Yeah, I call it the Oculum. It's my very first death ray.
And it won't poison me?
Oh, no, it's completely safe now.
Anything I should watch out for?
Yeah, try to avoid pointing at any mirrors.
As she loaded the Oculum onto the Farfarer, Bernardo was a little concerned about Calaveras. People who were utterly sure of themselves, he had found, were either experts or horribly wrong. Or both. But Bernardo only needed to fire the Oculum once. He only needed to destroy one ship, the Emperor's ship. And the war was over. Bernardo plunged into the Imperial fleet. He felt the Oculum humming. He no longer felt sick. This was going to be fun. Or at least, it was going to be over. Renato resisted the temptation to fire the Oculum until the time came. He could sense its arcane energies yearning to escape the sage's wrappings. But it wasn't eating him alive. So that was a plus. He felt good about himself. He'd saved a friend, he'd helped the rebels, he'd relied on himself, but he'd listened to others. He felt like the right sort of hero. Wise, yet decisive. Calaveras had been so sure it would work. Maybe he could fire it just a few times. No harm in that, right? But only when he absolutely needed to.
Like right there, that chip doesn't show up until I move. I like the detail of the game, though. It does have good textures and such.
Renardo's arm
That was
was
another
getting
good 1,000-point
tired.
play right there.
The core was no longer eating at him, but he still felt weak. His stamina was shot. But he had the oculum. When the ravens swarmed him, it would sometimes fire its death ray. It seemed to be warming up too, firing more and more often. Maybe he should let it cool off. Yeah, he decided to stop using it entirely.
Get out of here. Cool.
Odd. The oculum was still hot to the touch. He almost thought it was getting even hotter. Well, that was ridiculous, of course. Anyway, he'd only to fire it one more time, and then he could chuck the whole contraption into the abyss. And the Emperor's ship was now in range. Renardo squinted. He could make out the line of ravens protecting the ship. Zenobia in front, conjuring. And on the deck, yes, that was His Imperial Majesty, pacing in his golden armor. Renardo lined up his shot and fired. Caught in the beam, the ship burst into flames. The ravens and Zenobia exploded. The Emperor, too, exploded. Renardo waited for the beam to stop, but it only got brighter, and the oculum hotter. Frantic, Renardo pulled the oculum towards the abyss. The ruby burst into flames. The shiny metal casing glowed, then melted. That was good. Now the core could cool off, right? Renardo ran. The blast incinerated him instantly, along with both fleets. The shockwave could be felt across all Erda.
Up.
That winter, with neither Empire nor rebels to rule them, the islands slid into banditry. And so began the Second Age of Darkness.
Ooh. Alright, but I think that took... I think I played the last round of the previous 7 live streaming, so we'll start at 35 minutes. See how long this takes.
The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Renardo knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong.
but he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact.
Oh my gosh.
It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it. To take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also...
Just want to try something. There's something you can disable.
The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas.
All right, 36.
It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Bernardo knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it. To take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Bernardo had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. And he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage.
Make sure I'm in the right one. 19. Bucket of Death.
Renato finally realized that Lapino was a traitor to the cause. And maybe Renato could use that somehow. Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen the winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait, where was the prison? The village was empty. Had everybody fled the ravens? People were frightened these days. Just 2 weeks past, Renato had sneaked through an empty town and listened to the ravens caw about the Emperor's new taste in ritual sacrifice. Renato thought of the Iblis stone and shivered. He had no business messing with ancient, cruel artifacts. What he needed was his friends around. Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. A chest that shiny deserved to be opened.
I don't think there's anything. Anything down here? I forget. No, there's not. Hey, Mystery, thanks for watching, man. How are you doing? And thanks for subbing. It's a little more challenging without using the Hero's Quest rewards, but you get more experience by
landing everywhere.
Getting more hit combos.
He'd better get moving. If they got to Lapino first, they'd eat him for breakfast. Or a snack. Ravens weren't picky. If they got hungry, they sometimes forgot to interrogate their prisoners. Even top spies like Lapino. Well, unless he really was a traitor, obviously. Then they'd probably pin a medal on his chest.
And these swords do have different abilities, but it's really not... I don't find myself really needing to use them. Nice.
Lapino would betray him.
Have you ever played this before, Mystery?
Renato knew that. What would Lapino do if he knew that Pino was going to betray him? Well, he'd consult a crazy scheme, wouldn't he? That used Lapino's betrayal against him, and it would blow up in his face. Maybe he was overthinking this. Well, that would be it. Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato we capture Zenobia, we find out what she knows. And that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who happened to also be a deadly sorcerer, and, oh, his only daughter? That would be worth it. And it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her. And he felt sure she had one for him. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the
this dialogue I've already seen
even if he
before,
couldn't
but
get
I'm
the
not
whole
able to
thing.
skip it.
It must have great power. To make the Sky River.
So this is the path we want to take for story number 9, Bucket of Death.
It's beautiful here, thought Renato. It was nice to be back with his old war buddy. All right. Lapino was a traitor. But still, he was good company. The waterfall was spectacular. You had to enjoy these things as they came. We pass this way but once.
Nice. That was good experience there.
There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time.
Not sure if I get experience for killing those guys, but oh well.
Renato felt wrong.
There was a lot of nice
all over.
detail off to the sides.
You could feel an
You know,
almost
you stay
palpable
pretty focused
sickness
on
in
the
the
main game,
And if the land could have
going
tumors,
straight ahead, but
they would look like these monstrous crystals. The forest was quieter than it had been. There were insects, but few birds. If you didn't count the ravens. Renato smelled sick animals, dying ones. No help. I'm getting a bad feeling about this. Renato thought. Maybe Lapina was right. Maybe they should have kidnapped Zenobia instead of coming here.
Oh. Don't glitch out on me that much, man. Dude, I can't wait to make a coffee.
Renato could feel the burn.
Nice, that was a good experience. Cool, we're almost up to another level.
As he held the radiant icosahedron, Renato felt queasy.
Meet the
Dozens
scientists.
of tiny wood. Tell you what, said Lapino. I'll take it to the observatory. You attack the Imperial outpost. The Imperial outpost was a vital communications node. Taking it could shatter the Empire's ability to coordinate. And it would be full of secret plans and maps and maybe even rebel prisoners. It was a good target for a hero like Renato. But what if Lapino lost the core to the Empire?
Come on.
That could be a good thing.
So we started this
Couldn't
around 36.
Was Renato
So
ready
we've been
to
doing
take
this
that
11
risk?
minutes.
Maybe it was better if he brought the core to the scientists himself. Lapino was a touchy rat.
And go to the council.
As Renato watched Lapino vanish on the horizon, he could feel nausea building in him. He felt ill. Could his knees really be aching this much? But how could he have handed the core off to Lapino? That was a recipe for disaster.
I can't even go up the steps. Where I used to be able to race up the steps. There we go. block both of you, you son of a gun. Nice.
Renato felt worse. All his joints were aching now. He'd been through beatings that felt better than this. So the core had a kind of poison that could harm you without even touching you. That's new. Well, it had power. The rebellion needed something with power. And how was this any worse than a sword wound? Well, a death by sword was sudden and fair. This was just squalid. Piecemeal death, like old age.
Nice.
Hey, do old ravens go grey? You know what? Don't worry about it.
Oh, it's gonna have some good.
Good thing I don't have to clean
Nice.
up around here, he thought. The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists everywhere. Renato found the mad rabbit. Cal. Renato wasn't sure he believed that. But that Peter was talking so fast. He always seemed to make sense. The secret rebel base.
All right, we gotta go to the
Yes.
secret
They
base.
had engineers there. But wait. Calaveras, the sage in the mountains.
Excuse me.
Maybe he would know what to do with the naked core. Ah, yes.
Come on.
The ruins were quiet, but Renato could hear a buzzing in his ears. Was it bugs? Or was it the core slowly feeding him poison? The council would know what to do. If the core had this much power, it could surely change the terms of the great battle that was coming. And maybe they would take this burden from him. Maybe. Renato thought about Hypatia's kid. Poor, dumb Peter. Cut down by a goggler. He wondered if Peter had known he was protecting the Book of Destinies. Or was he just another brave kid, making his mummy proud?
Renato thought of the choices he had made. He'd rescued a friend and left him behind. He'd recovered a weapon and it was killing him. And the Empire's greatest scientists were dead because he'd asked their advice. Renato with the win.
Screw you.
How had it come to this? Renato had signed on as an adventurer. Sure, the Emperor had gone mad. Sure, Renato had heard horrors from the ghosts of dead kittens and puppies sacrificed in his blasphemous rituals. But when he jumped in, he'd only been a little bored and slightly broke. And here he was, carrying a bucket of death across a broken landscape. Why not drop it and run? Because he hated to quit in the middle. That was his fatal flaw. He had to know how it all turned out.
Is my energy going down because I have that stupid thing? That's why I'm...
Alas, they had to bury him in a bucket.
Shut
Actually,
up.
several buckets.
I didn't realize that my energy was going down because of the,
Say goodnight, Gracie, said Renato, wondering who Gracie was.
Long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. Nothing was on fire. So far, so good.
how come he has like no power?
Hey! Where'd all the ravens go? The live ones, I mean.
Come on. Brian is like the worst. There we go. What you have to do to get a platinum. There's nothing there.
He dropped the core at the entrance to the council chambers.
Get that thing out of here.
Croaked the speaker.
It's making us sick.
That's the core of the Sky Ripper, said Renato.
No, it's not useless at all.
Said an engineer toad.
It's poisonous. Look at the fox. He's ill. Probably dying.
Yeah, not useless at all, said Renato. So what do I do? Rub it on His Majesty?
The
The
Genoa.
engineer chuckled. Renato didn't like it when engineers chuckled.
Cool.
Oh, I got it. Listen, I can make a bomb that spread bits of the core all over a circle about 100 paces wide. Yeah, little chunks of poison and death. All you have to do is just get it near the Emperor.
He'll kill him and his bodyguard and chop off the head of the fleet. Yeah, and if we're lucky, might poison some of the ravens around there as well. What about me? Right, what about you? Well, I'll build in a timer. You can set it and run. No, that's a horrible idea, said Renato. Well, we had to do something, yes, said the speaker. This is something. Renato couldn't argue with that.
And so, reluctantly, Renato loaded the rigged core onto the Farfarer and set sail towards the Emperor's ship. The rebels took the fight to the Imperial fleet.
Come on, guys.
Renato was too sick to enjoy the view. He must have passed out as a firm hand grabbed him and shoved him forward. This was it.
Once I platinum this game, though, I should be at level 21, so that's pretty cool.
The fleet seemed very big, and its ravens very tough. Or maybe he was just slower and weaker than before. He hated the idea of poisoning the enemy. It wasn't fair. Face to face with a raven, let the best swordsman survive. But they wouldn't even know what was killing them. Feather by feather, scale by scale. He didn't mind dying a hero. That sometimes went with being a hero. But he didn't do it all like a hero. Not today.
Check, please.
Nice. Oh, come on. That was cheating.
He was exhausted. He was making stupid mistakes. Spurs coming off in bunches. Up ahead, he could see the Emperor's ship, long and sleek, a floating palace. The bomb would only poison a circle 100 paces wide. He would get as close as he could, set it, and run. Oh,
I was
this
gonna
was a
say
lousy
set
way
it
to
and
win a
forget it.
rebellion, he thought. He didn't want a medal for this. He just wanted to be forgotten.
That's
He had
bullshit.
done a barrel roll, he thought, as he died.
Bullshit. Screw you, buddy. Whatever. when my health is going down by just doing nothing. Kick-ass drills. You got some health.
Renato twisted the timer and the bomb as far as it would go and staggered off. His knees hurt. Oh, everything hurt. He staggered away as far as he could until he had to lie down. He could see the entire Imperial fleet from here, and the rebel ships engaged with it. There was a blinding flash. And a second later, a monstrous thump. Burning rocks arced across the sky over both fleets. A wreath of fire shot outwards, rolling across the fleets. A pillar of smoke boiled up from where the Emperor's ship had been. It reached into the clouds. That's a wee bit more than 100 paces, thought Renato. It took Renato most of that evening to die. Some of the toughest ravens lasted all week. Some of the rebels in the furthest ships survived as much as a month. That winter, with neither Empire nor rebels to rule them, the islands slid into banditry. And so began the Second Age of Darkness.
Alright, I'm gonna get a coffee. I'll be right back.
The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Renato knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis Stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it. To take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. And he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage.
Alright, what am I doing here? We're doing 20? Okay. So we're gonna go to rescue Lapino again.
Renato finally realized that Lapino was a traitor to the cause. And maybe Renato could use that somehow.
I'm pretty sure we're going to this one.
Ah, Lapino.
Find the core.
Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen the winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait, where was the prison? The village was empty. Had everybody fled the ravens?
That was a good experience there.
That was odd. Renato had been here, at this exact place, at this exact time. But this time, there were so many more ravens. Renato thought of the Iblis stone and shivered. He had no business messing with ancient, cruel artifacts. What he needed was his friends around him. Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
No enemies? That's weird.
Didn't I just kill your brother?
Nice. Nice.
Lapino would betray him. But now Renato knew that.
Find
What
the
would
core.
Lapino do if he knew that Pino was going to betray him? Well, he'd concoct some crazy scheme, wouldn't he? That used Lapino's betrayal against him and it would blow up in his face. Maybe he was overthinking this. Well, that would be dirty and bloody. Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized it.
We capture Zenobia, we find out what she knows. And that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who happened to also be a deadly sorcerer, and oh, his only daughter? That would be worth it. And it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her. And he felt sure she had one for him. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing.
It must have great power. To make the Sky Ripper, the
Good coffee, man.
It's beautiful here, thought Reynardo. It was nice to be back with his old war buddy. All right. Lapino was a traitor. But still, it was good company.
There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time.
Excuse me. Good.
Reynardo felt wrong all over.
He could feel an almost palpable sickness in the air. And if the land could have tumors, they would look like these monstrous crystals.
The forest was quieter than it had been. There were insects, but few birds. He didn't count the ravens. Reynardo smelled sick animals and dying.
No help. I'm getting a bad feeling about this.
Reynardo thought.
Maybe Lapino was right. Maybe I should have kidnapped Zenobia instead of coming here.
Nice. Leveling up here soon.
As he held the radiant icosahedron, Reynardo felt queasy. Like dozens of tiny worms were nibbling his insides.
It wasn't healthy to be so close to the eye of a god. How? Tell you what, said Lapino. I'll take it to the observatory. You attack the Imperial outpost. The Imperial outpost was a vital communications node. Taking it could shatter the Empire's ability to coordinate. And it would be full of secret plans and maps and maybe even rebel prisoners. It was a good target for a hero like Reynardo.
But what if Lapino lost the core to the Empire? That could be a good thing, couldn't it? Was Reynardo ready to take that risk? Maybe it was better if he brought the core to the scientists himself.
Attack the outpost. Meet the council is the next one.
As Lapino vanished into the wilds of the Nexus, Reynardo vaguely remembered Lapino had a baby daughter, didn't he? And he told her mother he was going out to get some Easter eggs, and he'd never come back. But Reynardo was relieved not to carry the core anymore. He was already feeling better. And who knows, maybe this time Lapino would get it right. And if Renato could take the outpost, he'd have access to all the Empire's communications in the sector, right? This chest smelled kind of funky. He hoped he didn't get it in his clothes.
Nice. Like a little clock on there.
Renato caught his breath. His joints still hurt, but he couldn't feel the poison in his system anymore. He'd let the armature slip out of his hands to save his friend Lupino. Of course he had to let Lupino take the core. The rebellion needed every man doing his duty. And the rabbit would be no good taking on an Imperial outpost, right?
Right. There we go.
Renato took the outpost with a song in his heart. Soon, he was stuffing his sack with key messages from and to the fleet. Then the far speaker toad chortled a new message. The observatory had been sacked by ravens. Lupino and all the scientists had been taken to the mountains. Why? Why had he trusted Lupino again? And now the Empire had the core. Renato hailed the rebel base to warn them. But their far speaker didn't crowd it back. Was the base under attack too?
Huh? Cool. Yeah. And you can search for different bathrooms and restaurants and people. I think you have to wait a day. Right. But see, the thing is, everyone's going to go tomorrow, everyone's going to go Monday, everyone's going to go Tuesday, we're going Wednesday, no, we're going Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll be good. Council.
Lupino would have to wait. The core would have to wait. Renato had a very bad feeling that something was going terribly wrong at the rebel base. Its location was secret, but secrets can be discovered.
I wonder what story ending this is going to be. Because it really wasn't showing the correct story for story 20.
There were Imperials everywhere in the ruins, and dead civilians. The Ravens were killing everything in sight. Renato was relieved to see no rebels among the dead. Maybe the secret base was still secret, but there were huge burn marks on buildings. What monstrous weapon was the Empire using here? The core had great power. Had they harnessed it somehow, even though they didn't have the armature? Why didn't the kid
That was
open the
good.
Book of Destinies? At least he'd have known about that gobbler. Why hadn't Hypatia opened it? Or... and this was kind of terrifying. What if they had? And what had happened had been the best future they could find.
Okay then.
Renato thought about the intel he'd gathered from the outpost. Who would he bring it to? Who even had time to read it? A portal to an unknown destination. Yeah, I bet it's totally safe, thought Renato.
Go this way. Go this way anyway.
He could smell charred flesh and hear screams. The ruins were on fire. But the Ravens had rigged up the core as some kind of burning ray. He wouldn't need to know the secret location. They were burning everything. It was killing them too. Their black feathers littered the path. He would have to take the core from them. It was the last thing he wanted to do.
Nice. Oh, what happened? I'm glad like the game doesn't end if you fall down. It just like resets the character. Blow up.
Now I don't have anyone to talk to.
The rebel base seemed quiet. That was good. Also, it seemed to be burning. That wasn't so good.
Yeah, sometimes they attack without, like, giving the exclamation point symbol. Ooh, that was a good one. Now we don't need to go up there. Let's go.
As the last raven fell, Renato felt worse than he ever had. The core was killing him.
I'm getting
again.
quite a few people liking my
The council
video
members
game pickup
cautiously came out into the smoke.
Instagram pic.
You saved us, croaked the speaker. They would put the weaponized core deep in a cavern, she promised, where its poison could harm no one. They would heal him if they could, she said. No, he's a weapon now. We need one. I'll lead the charge. It will kill you, croaked the speaker. I guess it already has, Renato said. She bobbed her head gravely. When all this is over, she said, we'll name our new capital city for you. He flew towards the Imperial fleet, a myriad ships in disciplined formation, waiting for the signal to destroy the rebellion forever. Behind him, the rebels were charging. If he failed, they would die. And so the final battle began. Everything hurt. It was unpleasant to fight this way. With each blow he struck with his sword, he felt weaker. Yet each time the core fired, it got brighter. As if the heat from the burning ravens and buildings only fed its hunger. He wondered where Lupino was. Wasn't he supposed to be in the battle?
Yay.
No. He'd been captured, hadn't he? Oh, Renato's mind was smoky now, like the burning fleet. He hoped this wouldn't take long.
Oh. That's my weapon. Cool.
You think at this rate, the Imperial army would run out of ravens?
Cool. Get some good experience on this last level. I think there's a way to, like, grind, like, quit before finishing the level. Alright, come on. Freaking cheaters. Fucking die. Die.
Renato had been in boat crashes that were Reynardo Opolis. Vulpus Major. Lando Nardo. If they were going to name a capital city after him, well, he just wished he had a better name. Lupino. Yeah, he missed Lupino's bitter outbursts. Or did he? Lupino had gotten him into this mess, hadn't he? The core was a wonderful weapon that swept fire across the fleet. Ravens exploded in its gaze, and
Oh,
with
freaking
every
cheating.
heartbeat, it grew brighter. He would die. But he would die every
Nice.
inch a hero. Spectacularly, changing history like the legendary heroes of lore. Or was it yore? He couldn't remember anymore.
Heroes of yore. lore would be like in the book. There you go, Reynardo. Nice.
Reynardo fell to his knees. The Emperor's bodyguards were lined up before his ship. Fierce ravens, all. And Zenobia. She was conjuring. He could not take another step. All he could do was fire the core. The ravens, Zenobia, the ship, all burst
We want to do
into
all but
flames,
22.
disintegrated, and blew away. So they had one, after all. The core grew brighter. He shielded his eyes, but he could still see it through his sleeves and through the flesh of his arm. And then he felt heat, as the fire grew to consume both fleets. And then he felt nothing.
Wow. So we did 21, we need 23. Good. 23 and 24, then we do those missing ones. And then we'll get some leveling up. I think we can finish it. Let's see if we can do it in another hour. They really like speed it up. So we're in 23.
The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time
so
to
we're at
choose.
144.
The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Reynardo knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis Stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it.
This is like
To
a
take its power
minute,
without surrendering
waste
to
of
its wickedness.
minute of my time here.
And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Reynardo had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. And he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage.
Okay. See, I don't understand. I can skip the dialogue after a choice, but not before a choice.
As he set foot on the island, Reynardo couldn't help feeling a bit curious. Was Lapino still waiting to be rescued? No. He was probably drinking champagne with the ravens. Did ravens drink champagne? Did rabbits? Reynardo felt oddly thirsty, come to think of it. Why had he chosen the Sky Ripper? Reynardo never made plans that required constant vigilance. He was a hero. He didn't think too much. He just went with his gut and hoped it all worked out. The Sky Ripper was a long shot. He'd have to devote himself to it. No side journeys, no rescuing old friends. That was against his nature. Could he stick with it? You guys ever wonder why the Imperial Ravens are always hiring? That had been his mistake before, thinking he could win a battle of wills with an ancient evil all by himself.
He had to be cleverer than that. Or braver. Or something.
That was good. Was it good for you?
So we're going in here.
You blinked.
Just in case I get bonus points. Yeah, come on! Seriously, holy cow, I'm not waving around my sword for nothing. Whew. It's over here. There we go.
Renato rubbed the fruit into his wounds. He felt better already.
I don't know if I've ever been over here. Interesting. 14,980. Now I gotta do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Man.
There it was. Sky Ripper's armature. The stuff that dreams are made of.
Find the core.
Engineer's dream. How is it part of a weapon at all? He'd have to ask a scientist. But first, he'd get the second piece. Sky Ripper had a heart. A core that had come to rest on the next island. Well, there was another island he could reach. Zenobia had just invaded it with her father's Raven battalions. She must be encamped there still. But fighting Zenobia now, that made no sense at all. He'd already sacrificed one friend to get this armature, was it? He didn't need to hurry to face her. She would find him.
Find the core.
It was a no-brainer. He looked up at the old trees around him. They were so big and so old. They'd been there before he was born, and they'd be there after he'd passed into legend. Was he confronting his own unimportance? What had got into him? He was no philosopher. Anyway, who cares? He was plenty important. He was a hero. And soon he'd prove it.
There's fighting over here.
It's over.
Oh, nothing. That's not cool. Gee whiz, man.
There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time. There were fewer and fewer trees. There were only these huge crystalline growths. Had those been here before? He no longer heard birds except for the feverish cawing of the ravens when they attacked. He couldn't smell the small animals of the forest, the mice and rabbits. Where had they gone? He was getting hungry too. This was an unhealthy place to be.
Whoa, where was that? That was weird.
Renato suddenly wished he had a marshmallow.
Yeah. Haven't heard that one before yet. Wish the ringing in my left ear would stop. It's freaking annoying.
The 20-sided core made him feel physically sick. Once he had sneaked into a temple of the dark arts, and he hadn't liked what he carried his prize back to the Farfarer.
Attack the outpost.
Now, he had to make his next move. There was a key Imperial outpost on the Nexus. If this really was some sort of super weapon, he could use it to wreak havoc on the enemy. And if it wasn't, well, better to know that before the final battle. But maybe he should show it to some scientists first. There was an observatory on the Nexus. Maybe he should go there before he fired it.
No, we're gonna attack the outpost because that's the most sensible thing.
As he set out down the path,
Renato wondered why the parts of the Sky Ripper had only surfaced
We're gonna need some help
thousands
here.
of years after the Transcendent Emperor had discarded it. This Emperor, Isengrim III, had performed terrible, bloodthirsty rituals to invoke the lost gods. Perhaps that was bringing up lost artifacts. How perfect, then, that the Sky Ripper would reappear to be his destruction. And hopefully this time, just his destruction.
Alright. How are we doing as far as nice.
Once, Renato had been to a dungeon where all the chests were locked. It was awful.
Excuse me.
He was tired of...
Alright, come on.
The Sky Ripper had been built by the Transcendent Emperor. To figure it out, he just had to think like a legendary demigod. That actually wasn't as helpful as it sounded.
That's moving fast. Nice.
The Sky Ripper was making a whining noise now, and its wheels were spinning so fast he could no longer see them.
Renato had a thought.
Yeah, sure it will, cracked Renato. Pull the other one. If you don't trust me, go see Calaveras. He'll tell you the same thing. Oh, she would say that.
Sorry, I
That
thought I was
sounded
going to the last
sensible.
round. I want to
Why
heat up my
did she
coffee.
always have to sound sensible all the time? Oh, it was infuriating.
Of course she would say that. He was supposed to hurry and bring the Sky Ripper to the council so the rebels could actually win the war. But what if she was right?
Damn it. Damn it.
Da, 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 da.
Renato landed on the island, expecting Zenobia's ambush.
God, after all these years, she still drove him crazy. Or, unless they were part of the ambush, the obvious reasons he was meant to see to take his mind off the ones he wouldn't see. There did seem to be a lot of ravens around here.
Go! Seriously, I tried to go fast through them, rush through them, and it wasn't working right. That's stupid. This is a nice free game, though.
Life insurance.
On the what made me want to play this. I don't know what the point of that path is, because there's nothing down there. You think that you would like go down there to like get on a ship or something, but all right. What? Okay. Can you warm that up, please? I need to get air in my tires and gas. Actually, I just need to get an oil change and a rotation.
Zenobia's ambush never materialized. Could she?
Where do you usually go,
sincere?
Sheets?
Calaveras was a great scholar. Renato doubted even Zenobia could convince
Wawa
him to
has
say
free air
something he
too,
didn't
right?
believe. And if he was working for the Empire, he'd never have told Renato that the Skyripper in the first place.
And Sheets is automatic too, like Wawa, right?
Old Toad. But that didn't mean he had to agree.
30 seconds, please. So I gotta be there in an hour. Which means I'll have enough time to do... Yeah, there is creatures over here. Whoa! Nice. I always tend to skip that. I don't usually go to that thing. Thank you so much. So I gotta be there in an hour. So he said? Okay. Thank you. Yeah, but you said an hour, not... So I need to be there by 4:45. Okay.
I said around 4:30, but if you're there at 4:30.
Okay.
Renata felt ready to take on
Nice.
new powers.
To his alarm, Renato realized that the rebels had no way of knowing he had a powerful new weapon. He might set off on their attack on the fleet before he could bring the Skyripper to the fight. He had to hurry, while there were still rebels to save.
Nice.
Calaveras examined the Skyripper eagerly.
Oh, how often does a new relic surface?
He brushed off Zenobia's warning.
Oh, what a sorceress know about physics.
However, he did know a few ways to make the weapon even more precise and more powerful, and quickly went off to tinker. Soon the Skyripper no longer whined, but thrummed like a hummingbird taking off. It was ready for war. And so, Renato thanked Calaveras and took the legendary weapon to the final battle. But where were the other rebel ships? Had something happened? He could defeat the Imperial fleet with a Skyripper, but he couldn't govern. He was not cut out to be Emperor, and he'd no desire to be one.
Actually, we'll finish this off here, and then we'll call it a live stream. Not getting too many people watching anyway.
There were a few rebel ships here and there, but there was no organization to the battle. Where was the Council flagship? Something had gone terribly wrong.
But he had the Sky Ripper, and the Ravens had nowhere they could hide. The portal was heavily guarded. It must go someplace they really didn't want it to go.
Nice. Yeah, if we can nice. Nice.
The Council speaker was on the deck, bleeding. Why was she even here? They found our base, she croaked. The Council, all dead. We must surrender. No, we could still win this, said Renato. I have the Sky Ripper. He would be a real hero and save the day, even when all appeared to be lost.
Correct.
You're a good boy, said the speaker. And then she died.
Nice. That was good. 2,000 for that. That was good.
He fired at the Sky Ripper. With a tremendous whoosh, the Emperor's flagship went up in flames. And for good measure, he played the beam around it, setting all the other nearby Imperial ships on fire too. And he watched them burn.
See? He could use the Sky Ripper safely.
The few remaining rebels gave a cheer. And then they stopped cheering. There was a hole in the air. A blackness, like a tear in a parchment. Wind was blowing into it, widening it. It grew larger. Crates were falling off ship decks, upwards into the hole. And the world itself seemed bent, like the reflection on a curved mirror as it poured into the ravenous hole. He guessed that somewhere behind that ever-widening hole were gods that had long been exiled. But it didn't really matter. Time was done for here, and soon it was.
Hyperhero. Alright, let's get moving. Probably about 2 to 3 more hours of play to get the platinum, I would guess.
The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting
2
for the
hours,
secret
maybe.
rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Renata knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong.
Alright guys, thanks for watching.
He was
Take
sure
care.
he could figure out how to